19 stab wounds, neck, chest, back, abdomen, a butcher's knife still lodged in her throat, the wooden handle wrapped in a kitchen tea towel, her own knife, her own towel, groceries half unpacked on the dining room table, lights still on, shirt pushed up, pants unfastened, blood on the door, the walls, the floor, no forced entry, no fingerprints, no witnesses. A veteran officer who served in World War II would later say he'd never seen so much blood. She was 19 years old, a newlywed. She'd been home from the grocery store maybe 20 minutes, and the man who did this walked back upstairs, lived a normal life, got married, had children, had grandchildren, took vacations to Italy. For 46 years, 7 months, and 12 days, he thought he had gotten away with it. And the most disturbing part, without a paper coffee cup at an airport, he would have. Lindy Sue Biechler, 19 years old, a flower shop worker who dreamed of opening her own shop one day. Her husband Phil called her the sweetest thing ever made. She wanted him to go back to school to become an art teacher. He said she brought out the best in him. They lived at 104 Kloss Drive, a 4-unit building called Spring Manor Apartments. Manor Township, Pennsylvania, Lancaster County, the kind of place where nothing was supposed to happen. But in the weeks leading up to her death, Lindy Sue told Phil she didn't feel safe. She thought someone was watching her, peering through her windows, stalking her. She didn't like being alone at home anymore. She was right. The man stalking her lived 1 floor up. Friday, December 5th, 1975. Lindy Sue worked her shift at the flower shop. After work, she stopped at the car dealership where Phil worked to pick up his paycheck. She deposited it at the bank, then drove to the grocery store, then drove home. That evening, her aunt and uncle stopped by. They were just there to swap recipes. A casual family visit. What they walked into would haunt Lancaster County for nearly half a century. Lindy Sue was on the living room floor, on her back. The knife was still in her neck. The groceries she'd just bought were still on the table. She was pronounced dead at the scene. Phil heard there was an accident at home. He rushed back. A police officer stopped him at the door, told him not to go in, told him his wife was dead. He said he just collapsed. The killer didn't bring a weapon. He used hers. A knife from her own kitchen set, its twin still sitting in her drawer. The handle wrapped in a tea towel from her own linen. Nothing of his left behind. No fibers. No tool marks. No murder kit, no forced entry either, which means she opened the door for him, which means she knew him. Detectives interviewed up to 300 people. They built a task force. They consulted FBI profilers. In desperation, they even consulted psychics. A year after the killing, Lindy Sue's tombstone was vandalized, chipped at with a tool. Days later, the Manor Township Police Department received a handwritten letter. The writer claimed to be the killer, said they would strike again. The FBI later believed the letter was a hoax, but the message was clear. Whoever did this was still out there, still in town, still watching. Pause for a second and tell me in the comments if Lindy Sue was already afraid in the weeks before her death. How did she not recognize the man who walked through her door that night? The answer is darker than you think. Stay with me. 19 stab wounds, neck, chest, upper abdomen, back, defensive wounds on her hands. She fought. Lancaster County Detective Larry Martin later said it looked like she was attacked the moment she opened the door. In 1997, more than 20 years after her death, investigators finally had the technology to test her clothing. A lab detected a semen stain on her underwear. Investigators developed a theory no one wanted to say out loud, that after stabbing her, he stayed. He stood over her body. He didn't leave right away. In 2000, the DNA profile from that stain was uploaded to CODIS, the FBI's National Offender Database. No match. Whoever killed her had never been arrested for anything that would put him in the system. He had simply kept going. Married, divorced, married again, 3 children, 9 grandchildren, hunting trips, family vacations. While Lindy Sue lay in the ground, her killer was building a life. January 2019. The Lancaster County District Attorney's cold. Case unit reopened the file. They brought in Virginia-based Parabon NanoLabs and a genetic genealogist named CeCe Moore. Moore hit a wall immediately. The killer's DNA had only extremely distant matches in genealogy databases. Cousins separated by hundreds of years. So she tried something no investigator had ever done before. She used immigration records. The DNA traced back to a tiny town in southern Italy called Gasparina. Population, just over 2,000. Calabria region. Moore tracked the migration pattern of Gasparina families to Lancaster County. She combed through Sons of Italy membership records, newspaper archives, birth records. Then she found a single engagement announcement for a man named David Vincent Sinopoli. The address printed in that announcement was 104 Kloss Drive. The same building, the same apartment complex. He had lived one floor above Lindy Sue in 1974 and 1975. But Moore's lead wasn't proof. They needed his DNA. On February 11, 2022, detectives followed Sinopoli to Philadelphia International Airport. He was flying to Aruba on vacation with his wife. They watched him sit at a coffee shop. They watched him stand up to leave. They watched him drop his empty cup into a trash can. Detective Larry Martin reached in and pulled it out. Cybergenetics analyzed the saliva DNA on that cup against the DNA from Lindy Sue's underwear. The match statistic? 1 in 10 trillion. A blood spatter expert was brought in. 2 blood drops on Lindy Sue's pantyhose, likely from her attacker, were tested. They matched the same profile. On July 17th, 2022, a Sunday morning, David Sinopoli walked down his driveway to pick up his newspaper. Detectives were waiting. On October 19th, 2023, in a Lancaster County courtroom, 69-year-old David Vincent Sinopoli pleaded guilty. The charges: third-degree murder, aggravated assault, a second-degree felony, burglary, a third-degree felony. Lancaster County President Judge David L. Ashworth accepted the plea and sentenced him to 25 to 50 years in state prison, the maximum allowed under Pennsylvania penalty statutes as they existed in 1975. He was also ordered to pay roughly $25,210 in prosecution costs. Given Sinopoli's age, the judge said it was essentially a life sentence. Assistant District Attorney Christine Wilson pointed at a photograph of Lindy Sue in court. She said, "Look at her, and the precious life you stole in 1975. Sinopoli looked at the photo. No reaction. When given a chance to speak, he said only, "I would like to apologize to everyone, including my wife." Judge Ashworth told him that his words and his conduct did not show remorse. Court records revealed Sinopoli had one prior conviction. In 2004, he pleaded guilty to invasion of privacy and disorderly conduct after admitting to spying on a naked woman in a tanning room at a business where he worked. The FBI profile from 1976 had predicted the killer might be a peeping Tom. They were right. The question Phil Biechler has carried for 50 years still has no answer. Why? Why Lindy Sue? Why that night? Why the knife from her kitchen? Why the tea towel? Why stay after? David Sinopoli has never said, not in court, not to investigators, not to her family. He sent Phil a letter after his arrest. One sentence long. "I'm very, very sorry." That was it. Phil said it best in court. "To me, David Sinopoli is only sad because he got caught." For 36 years, he was married to his second wife. 3 children, 9 grandchildren. Lindy Sue Biechler was 19 years old. She worked in a greenhouse. She wanted to open a flower shop. She wanted her husband to become an art teacher. She got a paper coffee cup of justice. 46 years too late. If this case stayed with you, hit subscribe and share this video. Lindy Sue's name deserves to be spoken for far longer than her killer enjoyed his freedom. He thought a kitchen knife and a tea towel would bury the truth forever. He didn't count on a paper cup and a detective with patience. Lindy Sue Biechler waited 46 years for someone to say her killer's name out loud. you can help make sure she's never forgotten again. Hit that subscribe button. This channel covers the cases the world tried to forget. The cold ones, the buried ones, the ones that took decades to crack. If you want more stories like Lindy Sue's, you don't want to miss what's coming next. Stay safe, stay aware, and I'll see you in the next case.